Okay, so we are joined today by the 811 PRA team, and I will let them explain what that means. We're joined today by Libby Tyre, Harnethia Bowers, and Eujeania Appling. Libby is the Permanent Supportive Housing Program Manager in the Office of Homeless and Special Needs Housing at the Department of Community Affairs, and she manages two PSH programs, including the HUD 811 PRA program and the COC-funded GHFA PSH program. Libby has been with DCA for 10 years, and prior to coming to DCA, worked for 21 years with two nonprofit agencies. At the Center for Family Resources in Marietta, Georgia, she served as the housing director for 5 years. She also held various roles over 16 years at the Community Mental Health Center in Lexington, Kentucky, including director of partial hospitalization, director of case management and housing supports, Olmsted liaison, and community support program director. She is a graduate of the University of Kentucky and a native of Frankfort, Kentucky. We are also joined today by Harnethia Bowers, who is the HUD 811 coordinator in the Office of Homeless and Special Needs Housing at the Department of Community Affairs. She educates properties and partners on the 811 process, contracting, and manages HUD reporting. Prior to coming to DCA, she worked for two local housing authorities, and she has over 15 years experience in housing, contracts, and real estate. Her certifications include housing specialist, rent calculation and real estate license, and she is a graduate of Park Atlanta University and a native of Atlanta, Georgia. Eujeania Appling is the HUD 811 housing specialist in the Office of Homeless and Special Needs Housing at the Department of Community Affairs. She manages HUD 811 applications, waitlist, and property referrals, as well as educates referral agencies such as us here at Life and participants about the HUD 811 program. Prior to coming to DCA, Eujeania worked for Morehouse School of Medicine, Strayer University, Richmond Redevelopment, and Virginia Housing Authority. Eujeania has over 13 years experience in property management with both housing authorities and tax credit properties in Georgia. Her certifications include Housing Choice Voucher, Public Housing Specialist, LIHTC Specialist, Rent Calculation and Occupancy Specialist, and Eujeania is a graduate of Strayer University and a native of Irvington, New Jersey. Please make them welcome. And I'm going to turn it over to Libby and let her begin the presentation.
Absolutely. And I have, just to make sure that my connection stays strong, I've turned my video off while I'm also sharing the presentation. So I wanted to say hi initially with my video on, and then, but I do seem to have a stronger connection when the video is off. So I hope that
absolutely.
is
Makes perfect sense.
Yes. Well, thank you all for having me and the team here today. We really appreciate it. And we also appreciate the partnership that we have with Life on the 811 program. So I'll have to say the three of us, those bios and introduction sounded very nice, and it is all true, but we are all new to the 811 program. So I have to kind of preface all of this with the fact that we are new. I still call myself new. The program was moved under me a couple of years ago, but the 811 program is pretty complex. And so I just feel like I can start answering questions around it. Harnethia and Jeannie are both started with DCA in the spring. And so we all collaborate on answers often. So we will go through a PowerPoint today that is really just helpful to us to kind of make sure we hit all the points with everyone, particularly from a referral agency provider standpoint, which is who I feel like we're speaking with mostly today, and perhaps applicants to the program. The partnership for support services is really critical to the 811 program and to the success of folks being in stably housed in the 811 program. So your all's partnership and continued tenancy supports that go along with this program are just critical. The housing obviously is there, and is needed, but the tenancy supports, I feel like, is the critical piece. So we will just move right along. Yes, it's going. So we're going to start out with a brief program overview. Let me try to move my screen over here. Okay, so I can see what I'm doing here. So 811 is, and you could call it 811 or 811. I call it 811. It is a permanent housing option with support services for individuals with disabilities. It is project-based rental assistance, not tenant-based, which folks might be more familiar with. HCV or Section 8 is a tenant-based voucher. That means the lease is in the name of the subsidy is in the name of the tenant and can move with the tenant. A project-based rental assistance voucher sticks with the property address. It's stuck to the property. Rental subsidy for units at specific properties is what PBRA is. And participants apply through an approved referral agency, and you all are one of those. Or Life is one of those, I guess I should say. Not everybody on the call is probably with Life. And we have many of those across the state. So what is 811? It is, we have wait list applicants are referred to properties based on a wait list that we administer at DCA. Applicants can have up to 6 county preferences because it is a statewide wait list. It is housing at tax credit properties throughout the state of Georgia. The 811 program is a part of the tax credit property system. A referral to the wait list and a referral to a property vacant or vacant unit is not an approval to the program. So that's a really good distinction from a referral standpoint. You all help folks get referred to the wait list. And then when a vacancy comes up, then the 811 program staff refers that applicant from the wait list to the property. So I hope that's helpful. This and it is, again, I think this is mentioned a couple of times, but it's really important to know that the property is not emergency housing. It's not an immediate housing solution. So there are emergency housing options through all the local continuum of cares, and that if you have someone who needs housing next week, next month, it's fine to apply the 811 program, but you'll definitely want to look for an emergency solution while they're on the wait list. So who's qualified for the 811 program? We have 811 eligibility is based on 3 basic criteria in the beginning: age, income, and disability. So they must be between the ages of 18 and 61 at move-in. It does not have to be the head of household that is the eligible tenant, and it can exceed age restrictions once housed. So if they moved in 5 years ago at age 61 and now they're over 61, they still are eligible for the rental assistance and they can remain in the housing. The annual income must be at 30% AMI, or maximum of 30% AMI. That's also called extremely low income when you're looking at HUD charts and things. So you can Google HUD AMI and it will pull up this huduser.gov, and I will show you in a little bit later how to kind of maneuver through that process as you're helping people know if they are eligible or not. They must enter at 30% or below, but if their income increases and pushes over that limit, or after, a year after they move in or 5 years after they move in, then they are still eligible for the rental assistance. They do not lose eligibility. And this is really important to know because sometimes the properties don't know this because this is not applicable to tax credit residents, but zero income tenants are eligible for the plan and for the program. Obviously, as a case manager, you want to make sure that they have a plan for living expenses. Zero income is eligible, and the full rent and plus a utility allowance can happen on the program, but we all know that living on absolutely zero income is pretty impossible. They will have to have some income moving through, even with a utility allowance, to pay those utilities ahead of time, get the utilities in their name, all of those things, buy groceries and essentials. And so a plan to sustain the housing is definitely needed from the case manager. And then the third eligibility, basic eligibility, is disability. So this is for folks with disability. The program is applicants must be disabled by the HUD definition. We'll go over that a little bit later. They must submit a verification of disability with their application. It's signed by a licensed clinician. And we do have two sort of levels of two levels of preference for disability. This program was originally designed to serve folks, what is listed here in Tier 1 as the DOJ settlement eligibility criteria. That's folks with severe and persistent mental illness, exiting institutional situations. Or money follows the person, MFP eligibility criteria, Medicaid qualified with a not a voucher, what am I thinking of? The MFP supports and exiting an institution. So that's our original population we were designed to serve. In 2019, we requested to HUD to expand our population, and we do refer to this as the population expansion. And that is our Tier 2 folks. So anyone referred to the program that has a disability outside of those two preference populations go onto the wait list as a Tier 2 group. And all that really means is when we get a vacancy in Walker County, we look for all Tier 1s on the list in chronological order first. They are submitted to that property, and then we go to the Tier 2s. So that's all that means. Let's see. I am not moving forward here. Hold on. There we go. This is the same thing I was just speaking of. It kind of puts it in a more visual. DBHCD settlement eligible is the DOJ population. DCH is the money follows the person. Those are Tier 2 groups. And then individual with impairment by HUD definition, that's our population expansion. And I am moving kind of fast. I want to make sure that we get through the content. Please, we will have some time for questions at the end. But I don't know that I can see it on here because I'm not familiar with it. But you're also allowed or encouraged to ask me questions. I appreciate that. This is the disability definition that we were talking about, the expanded definition. It's really just an eligible applicant must have a physical, mental, or emotional impairment and licensed by a professional clinician. It does not need to be recent documentation. So like if they were determined disabled and receive SSDI from 10 years ago, that documentation is sufficient. It can be SSDI documentation. It has to be for a licensed professional or staff that determines that. And some things to think about are that they have to have the disability, they have to have the duration. So the disability is expected to last of long-term or continued indefinite duration. It has to limit someone's level of independence, the impairment does, of living independently in the community. And housing has to be able to be connected to stability of that definition. Of that disability. These are a couple important points, I think, for someone supporting or assisting someone in filling out the application. A sole impairment of alcoholism or drug addiction does not qualify as a disability for an individual in this program. An additional impairment must be identified. So a sole diagnosis of substance use disorder is not enough of a diagnosis to qualify. And a sole impairment of HIV does not qualify as a disability for this program either. The form goes to the form that you fill out goes to the 811 PRA staff, and it's not required to be submitted at the time of property application. That's important because sometimes the property will ask us, do you we don't have verification of disability, and that's for their compliance. The referral that our office sends via email to the property and copies the referral agent on is verification of disability for that property. And we just don't want to send all kinds of HIPAA related disability verification type information to properties and through email. They don't need that. They just need to know that we verified disability on our end before sending that. They will verify income and all the other requirements of the property when you take them in, to apply, but they do not have to have that. So just know that when you're helping folks apply at the property level. Legal history is important to know too. No one in the household can be convicted of manufacturing or producing methamphetamine on the premises of federally assisted housing, or can be subject to a lifetime registration requirement under a state sex offender registration program. Those are HUD requirements. You just can't get any type of assistance, federal assistance, if you have that criminal background. Housing instability is some type of housing instability needs to be documented it's part of the referral form or the application form. Institutionalized or at risk of becoming institutionalized, homeless or at risk of becoming homeless, leaving a group home, an adult care facility, or another residential type setting, or exiting foster care. I'm not going to go deep into the occupancy standards, but like I said, I will send all of this out so you all will have it as a reference. But we do have to abide by occupancy standards. So a one-person household cannot apply for a 2-bedroom unit unless they are requesting it through a reasonable accommodation. A household member with 2 children mostly qualifies for a 2-bedroom unit, but the occupancy standards are all outlined here. So if you have a spouse partner that requires a separate bedroom, you would need a reasonable accommodation to request that. Same-sex individuals, regardless of age, must share a bedroom. That's referring to additional bedrooms and children, because the third point there, individuals who are a part of different generations do not share the same bedroom. So a parent is not required to share a bedroom with their child. Opposite sex individuals, and again, I think they're referring to children here, share a bedroom until the oldest turns 7, and then they are allowed and or required to have 2 separate rooms. Live-in aid is a really important thing because quite a few folks submit applications for a 2-bedroom with a live-in aid requirement. To request a live-in aid, that is a reasonable accommodation that has to be completed. But the live-in aid has their own bedroom, and then any peculiar circumstance that kind of fits with a household that you're trying to get in, just, we can review it on a case-by-case basis and talk through it and go through the reasonable accommodation paperwork with you if that comes up. Overhousing, this is related to the same thing. So this important down here at the very bottom, pregnant women are eligible for a 2-bedroom unit. That comes up sometimes. Let's see, an 811 tenant with a disability who needs a larger unit is reasonable. I've already said that, needs a reasonable accommodation. An 811 participating tenant with abnormal housing challenges such as a natural disaster, when no other, okay, what they're talking about here is if it is sort of an emergency due to a natural disaster, we can waive the overhousing policy requirement if there's only a 2-bedroom available, but you need a 1, they can go ahead and move in and then be on the wait list for a 1. So that's what that's referring to. Let's see. The property management, when you get to that property level application, they are responsible for the final determination that the household meets the occupancy standards that are outlined in the HUD handbook 4350.3. And this is a good note, just, we all love to go read HUD handbooks, I know, but if you're really bored and you want a reference point, the HUD handbook 4350.3 is the standard that runs this program. So for occupancy standards, income calculation, anything you ever need to know is in that handbook. So obviously we are always here as a resource to everyone, and you can reach out to us. But if you're really wanting to know the regulation behind our answers, then you can go to this handbook. Let's see. And income calculations, again, we've touched on this already a little bit. This goes in a little deeper. Income tenants can apply. However, you should really support them with a plan to address all of their living expenses. It is 30% AMI is the HUD requirement. They can surpass that if their income increases and they're already in the program. That's not a problem. It is important. I think I've got it pulled up. This is how you go to find that. Again, Google HUD AMI. It will pull up a link. It'll take you to this. You can see this was in 2020. The 2022 income limits came out in April, so it is up to current now. You click on the year, which would be 2022, and then it will pull up something that looks like this that has the different, you select the state, then you select the county that they are moving into, not the county that they're living in if that's different. It's the county they're moving to or where the subsidy will be provided in. Click on that and it'll pull up something that looks like this with all different levels. You see 50% at the top, and then very low is 50%, extremely low. Doesn't have the percentage next to it, but that's the one we're looking for. The 30% is called extremely low. And then you see below that it says low income is 80%. So for this program, it's the 30% extremely low. And that's good. And you can see the difference here. The first slide here is the Atlanta metro area, and the very low income for one person is $17,400. But if you're looking at Appling County, which is way down in South Georgia, for one very extremely low income for one person is $12,760. So it's a really big difference. If you currently live in Atlanta metro area and you are wanting to accept a unit in Appling County, you need to meet the AMI for Appling County. And it can be a really big difference. Referrals to the wait list. And this is obviously where our relationship with Life and with other CILs and all of our referral agencies, referral partners is critical. So some things that you as a referral agent need to confirm. Before a referral is sent to the wait list, you need to confirm those three basic things, age, income, and disability. Do they meet those three basic criteria, and gather the paperwork that's needed? Do they have a preference designation? Do they meet DBHCD settlement eligibility or MFP, money follows the person? And if so, provide that documentation. Make sure you've got that written across the top of the application so that we know that they get that tier 1 designation when they go on the wait list. And then the household makeup and eligibility, so that they meet the occupancy standards and so that you can kind of make sure that they're requesting the appropriate sized unit. The wait list is open for all counties in the state, 159 counties, but I have to say where an 811 property exists. In the past, I believe we've just allowed folks to apply to wherever they want to live, but that doesn't really make sense if we don't have a property in that county. It just sets folks up for being on the wait list for a really long time, waiting for a property to maybe be built there. So while we want to be totally inclusive of the whole state, we need to be realistic of where properties exist and where we have contracts with properties that exist. So, and it's good to note, and I'm sure you all know this if you've partnered with us for a while or been around, the wait list for a 1-bedroom unit in Fulton and DeKalb is extremely long. You can be on the wait list for 2 to 4 years for a property in those counties. And so just want all of that information to be passed on to our referrals, our applicants, and the people that we're trying to support. Referrals are numbered when they're sent to a referral. So if a vacancy comes open and we send 5 referrals to that property for that vacancy, they're numbered. And then if all 5 showed up and all 5 applied and all 5 qualified, then number 1 would get the unit before number 2, before number 3, and that's sort of the sequence of how it goes. If only number 5 shows up and the other 4 don't show up, they don't apply, or they show up, apply, and they get denied for some reason, then number 5 would go ahead and move forward with the unit. We do have an updated referral form, it's not super updated. It was updated in April of 2020. So just make sure if you are sending in referrals that you've got that form and it says revised for 2020 at the bottom. Discard any old forms. Referral forms to the waitlist must be completed with all supporting documentation. If you are missing something, Jeannie does all of that review and gets them placed on the wait list. So that's probably who you talk to, go back and forth with. She'll say, hey, you're missing this, or you're missing a signature here. Please send me this. And she'll kind of hold on to that until you send that follow-up documentation. And then she will send you a confirmation email that says that so-and-so has been placed on the wait list as of this date. And it's the date that you send in. If it takes 2 weeks to get some missing documents, it is still the date that you originally submitted the application packet. Regular status updates are not given. We have over 500 people on the wait list statewide, and some back several years because they're waiting for a very specific county. So we do not give status updates on a regular basis. We are glad to give you one if you reach out, or if a participant reaches out directly and emails us and says, can you please tell me what's going on or whatever. It's hard. It's not like an HCV wait list. Like we can't say, oh, you're number 232 on the wait list, because it's a statewide wait list and all 500 people are not waiting for the same county. So we don't have a numbering system on the wait list. We can't say you're at the top or you're at the bottom. So if you could just help the participants that you're helping apply sort of wrap their head around that. It doesn't function like an HCV wait list. And the other thing to help them understand is that a referral to the wait list does not guarantee a referral to a unit, certainly not quickly, because this is not an emergency program. Those are not the same referrals. Referring to the wait list is step one, really. And then a referral to a vacant unit might come along, further down, will come along further down the road. It also does not guarantee that they will pass the application process at a specific property. Specific properties can and often do have, they do have their own application, but sometimes they have other tenant screening criteria that might, for one reason or another, make your applicant not eligible. So just help them understand that. We really don't like people to have their hopes up in a wrong direction and then get disappointed. To update any client information on the waitlist, the email has not changed. It's 811waitlist@dca.ga.gov. Updated information for older referrals is very needed and very appreciated by the staff. If a person is stably housed, and you know it, if they're not interested in the program anymore, if they move to Florida, if they're on the wait list for a county that we do not have contracted units for, any of those changes, please just email this 811 waitlist email address and let us know. And that helps us keep that really massive 500 person wait list under control. Referral agents who are not ready, this just says that we only work with approved referral agencies, and that's because they need to know all this information, but you guys are one of those. So referral to a property, this is where you all can come in and know some information to help support folks to do it successful, to bridge that gap with the property. Make sure ask the client if they're interested in a potential placement at the property. When you get the referral from Jeannie and it has that highlighted, so-and-so has been referred to Abington at Linwood property in Walker County, then as fast as you can, meet with the client, call the client and say, hey, you've been referred to this property. Are you interested? If they are interested, contact the property and make an appointment to view the property right away. You only have to make that contact those first 4 days or 3 to 4 days that's on there, and potentially complete an application. You don't have to get to the property within those 3 days. You just have to make that contact, that initial contact. Do not print the referral form to the property vacant unit and give it to the client and say, and act like it's a voucher and let them take the, take it in by themselves. That's not a voucher. And it can get real confusing when people are dealing with HCV or other tenant-based voucher type programs. Make sure that you don't do that. But if the client wants to run over there and look at a property and you can't go with them that day, just to go through and look at it, they can obviously do that. You're not required to go, but there's a lot of points that have to be touched during that application process. And since this is supportive housing, that's the whole crux of having the agency help the folks go do what they need. So if at all possible, go to the appointment at the property with your client. Be sure to bring all kinds of documents that you need. Ask the property what they specifically need, but it is identification for all family members, driver's license, ID, birth certificate for kids, birth certificates for all family members, social security cards, social security information for all family members, current income and asset documentation for all family members, medical expenses for all family. That's how they take that into consideration when calculating the tenant rent and the eligibility. It's really important to bring all of that with you because an incomplete application can't move forward for approval within their system. So that's important. I'm going to move a little quicker because I know we have until 2, I think. I want to.
You're absolutely fine. Okay. We typically run until at least 2 o'clock. If you need to run a little bit over, people can drop off if they need to, but I'll be here and I'll keep recording.
Okay, great. Thanks. The property visit to a unit. Each referral to a property is instructed to contact the property and set up an appointment. The property will not be contacting you. So they get the referral at the same time the case manager gets the referral or the support agency gets the referral, but it's up to the support service provider to contact the attached referral applicant and help them set up that appointment and reach out to the property. The property will not be reaching out to you, even though everybody gets the information at the same time. Set up an appointment, really make contact almost immediately, set up the appointment as quick as possible because they do have to fill those units and other people may, pop in front of your person. All 811 households are eligible for all 811 units, no matter what type of property. So this is talking about the tax credit property. Some properties are family properties, some properties are 55 and older, and some. So our 811 applicants are eligible at both. So if you're 45 and you got referred, if your applicant is 45 and got referred to a 55 plus property, they're still eligible to go. It's because of the disability that keeps them eligible. Case managers do not need to be present for a household to go visit the property. But again, success of the application sometimes is helpful if a case manager can support that process. If a referred household contacts the property within the designated time, then they are compliant. They don't need an updated referral. That's really speaking more to properties. And 811 referrals may or may not be citizens. We are actually checking with our HUD TA on this because I think they can be referred, but I think the tax credit rules may overshadow that. So we're checking on that, but to confirm with our legal department on that. These are some important points because the properties, again, we have 100 properties and they turn over with property management staff very often. So it's good for the referral agent and the case manager to know these points. No application fee for 811 referrals. So if you take someone in to fill out an application and the property manager says that the application fee is $50, you can know and you can say with confidence that there is not an application fee for 811 referrals. If they're confused, always just refer them back to our staff. We've already told you multiple 811 referrals are sent at one time. We had a really big, massive move into Cobb County in the spring, or referral process, and we were only getting about 1 outreach per 20 referrals. So we do send 5 and 10 referrals at a time. So that's why it's really important to turn around and make that contact within a day or two. Use the on-site property application. That's what you'll be doing there. Some of those are online now. A lot of those have gone to online since COVID. I got a little spin thing, so I don't know if I've had some connection issues, but compliance and background check amounts cannot be charged to the 811 household. Another good thing for the case manager to know. And the accommodation that may be necessary due to disability or income challenges, the case manager will be a part of making that request to the property. These are some things that the property management will confirm. It's just good for you to know. They confirm all the age, income, and disability. They will, the household makeup and eligibility, so the occupancy standards, and the 30% AMI. They will confirm all of that at property application. An 811 referral to an open unit does not give a household the green light to just go show up without an appointment. That's really important. Those are important pieces to get through to your applicants. They can't just go show up and say, I'm here to apply for 811. They need to make an appointment. There may be multiple applicants are going to be sent to the same unit. So respond as quick as possible. We sometimes work on a very short time frame. So again, call as soon as possible. This tax credit property, if we can't fill it with an 811 resident, they fill it with a tax credit applicant. And they've only got a short window to do that. So we get first dibs basically. And then if we can't get it done quickly, then they fill it with their own, and then we have to wait for the next vacancy. So we always want to take advantage of those vacancies if we can. And they cannot charge an application fee or a background check fee. Property move-in is another big piece where I see supports needed. If the application is approved, then a tenant briefing and a tenant statement of understanding is signed. That's something that we will send out to you all when it's updated. They do complete a HUD 811 model lease with all the additional property leases. There's a model lease for 811, and it outlines the unique features of the 811 program that will be really in conflict with what a tax credit lease might have in it. Such as the security deposit is $50 or the total tenant payment. Total tenant payment is not the rent, it's the total tenant responsibility, which would be rent and utilities. But if someone has, so it's whichever is greater. So if someone has zero income, then they likely will have a $50 security deposit. You know, they have to turn on utilities in their name. So they're going to have utility connection deposit and all those additional costs for move-in. So as you apply to 811 program with someone, you know, helping someone figure out saving the resources or community-based resources to meet these costs so that move-in can happen, that's really important. Those are not things that the 811 program provides for the participant or the applicant. So that's something really good for the case manager to be working on while someone might be on the wait list. And if the application is denied, then going through with the reasonable accommodation letter and all of that is something that is sort of initiated by the case manager or the support service provider. And then if approved, then they move right on in and you help them. Again, zero income is acceptable. No late fees are allowed. And in this slide here, the HUD handbook, chapter 6 shows that requirement or supports that requirement. And income can increase after move-in. And we've got some references here. Those other things about vacancy loss and termination fee are really specific to the property. Support services. This is a big, again, this is permanent supportive housing. So there is the financial support coming through the HUD 811 program, and then the support services piece, which comes through the referral support service agency. It's critical. Both pieces, we need the rent paid and we need the supports there to keep folks stably housed. So the supportive services on the front end, everything we've already talked about, getting folks connected, applications filled out and moved in, but long-term tenancy supports are built into the 811 program as well. And that's something that an approved referral agency, agrees to. The 811 participants can choose to opt out of services. Obviously, that's always allowed. Choice is important, but it's not recommended for long-term housing stability. So we want to make sure that there's a great connection between the agency and the applicant or resident. Referral agent activities, collecting referral documentation. We've already talked about all this. Making service referrals, assisting with requests for reasonable accommodation, move-in assistance, security deposits, providing ongoing tenancy supports for folks as they are living in the unit. It can be assisting with housing appointments, housing applications, move-in preparation, reasonable accommodations, obtaining furnishings and supplies to live in the unit, maintaining a good positive relationship with the landlord. That's so important. Communicating with the tenant on a regular basis to make sure their rents are paid and on time. The assistance in getting with entitlements, social services, community resources, behavioral health and primary care services, skill building, keeping someone healthy while they're in the unit, and making sure they're connected to those resources, and sort of keeping check on their symptomatology sometime, and pointing and recognizing when they might need to get reconnected with some either behavioral health or primary care services. Helping them with skill building, peer supports, employment, crisis planning, all of those things that go along with case management. This is a really big piece for us. Communication is key. Back and forth. We have a great relationship with your agency, and I feel like communicate really well. But if you get 5 referrals for a vacancy and 2 of them don't want it anymore, letting us know that so we can get it off our wait list. Just back and forth, all of that is really important. How to stay connected, how for you all to stay connected. We do still have weekly office hours every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Harnethia and Eujeania, they run those. We have talked about having separate office hours, one for properties and one for support service agencies, so that we can sort of gear our information sharing towards the needs, but they're very different needs. We haven't put that in place yet, but that's coming down the pike. We can come do 811 trainings by request, just like today. And if you want us to meet with your separate agency, a smaller group, one-on-one, whatever you need, just let us know. And you can always email any of us, obviously, but the hud811@dca.ga.gov email address goes to all 3 of us. So instead of just sending something directly to me that might get buried for a day or 2, you can send it to that email address and we all 3 get it. So that's a great way to stay connected. And here is our, information. We are in the Office of Homeless and Special Needs Housing at DCA. And there's that hud811@dca.ga.gov email address again. And Harnethia Bowers is our PRA coordinator, and Eujeania, or Jeannie as we call her, is the program specialist. And either or can help answer your questions or meet your needs. Jeannie is probably who you are used to sending referrals to and getting those applications processed with. And I believe that's the last slide. Yes. Whew, I did it.
You
and time for questions.
That was fantastic. You covered, yeah, no, it was fantastic. You covered a lot of information. I found it personally very helpful. I did see one question in the chat from Jennifer Pruitt, and I just wanted to ask if she had gotten her question answered during the course of your presentation.
I see that. How can we find out if there are any properties in our county? The quickest, easiest way to find that out is to shoot us an email at HUD811 and just let us know the county that you're interested in. And the reasoning for that is because we have, so there are tax credit properties all over the state. Some in order to participate in the HUD 811 program, when they were initially funded to be built, they needed to check a box that said they would participate in HUD 811. So there's a lot of tax credit properties all over the state that did not check that box. Some years the funding required it to be checked. Like, you just can't get funded unless you check this box. Other years it was an option and you got extra points if you checked the box. So all of that to say, not every tax credit property that has been built in the last 10 years across Georgia is required to participate in 811. So that's the first thing. And then those that did participate, we have to contract with them. So we have to go through a contracting process. And we have not contracted with all of them that said yes. And some of it's because, you know, it's in, I don't know, I hate to say it, it's in some random county where we have never in 5 years had a referral from. So there's a large administrative burden in managing those contracts. So sometimes we target, you know, we've got 50 people on the wait list from Savannah. So any projects built in Savannah, we will likely contract with. Same with the metro area. And so we've tried to be very targeted to contract with properties where we have identified need. So just reach out to us individually. We will get you as much information as possible about the county that you're interested in.
That's fantastic. Thank you for being so accessible. I think the ability to contact you directly and get that information is priceless. It's invaluable. There is something that showed up in the chat that I wanted to share with everyone, and then Brenda has a question and I'll let her ask that. So we were asked by a participant, what if the person has a job? And Eujeania did answer her, and it says you can have a job and be on the program, but there are income guidelines. Yeah.
Yes. And again, you know, the income guidelines are at entry. So the income limitations, I should say, are at entry. So that 30% AMI, the extremely low income requirement at entry. So you just have to have a disability. But if someone wants to go get a job, a part-time job or something else, once they're in, if they already meet the income guidelines, and then once they're in the program and maybe it puts them over a little bit, the income eligibility is only at entry. So that's good to know too.
That's very good to know. Thank you so much. That's actually really helpful. Brenda, do you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Yes. When will the age requirement, I see, is 18 to 61? Do you think in the future that would change over 61? Because that disqualify me as far as the 811 because I'm 62.
Yeah. That will not change, unfortunately. That is written into the regulation of the 811 program when it was created. And I'll try to explain why. HUD has a funded program for folks that start at age 62, and it's all of the tax credit senior properties. You have to be 62 to apply at those properties. So I think from a regulation standpoint, they feel like they've already covered that group 62 and up because they are funding in various ways. There's quite a bit of senior housing out there. They have it through tax credit properties, and they're called senior housing. They also have it through the 202 program, which is a project-based HUD funding of, they're usually high-rise buildings or whatever, but they are funded for seniors specifically. So that's the reasoning behind the cutoff at 61, is because HUD has other funding that helps support that population. I'm sorry that puts you out of this program, though.
And I mean, I mean, you're right. It does put me out of the program, even though I have, you know, dependent children that are raising. So it's just like, it would put me, I can't go into a senior, I can't go into 202 because I have a family. I'm over 61, so it doesn't put me in the 811. So I guess, so I'm between that number of, as far as services out there that can accommodate me and my family.
Yeah. And so a specific rental, those are all project-based programs. A specific rental assistance program or rental subsidy, kind of like Housing Choice Voucher, that's tenant, but that's attached to you and can go wherever you want to go. It still kind of has the burden of finding the unit. You have to find someone to take it, but it's basically getting one of those vouchers is probably going to be the best bet to get the household size that you need, for your dependents and for your whole family. That might be the best route.
And then we already know the criteria for that. I mean, you have to wait for your city to open
Right.
up to get that, and that can be every 5 to 6 years. I mean, and then getting on the list. So, I mean, I listened to the whole presentation and then I did my research. So,
Yeah, you sure did.
yeah, but I
I'm
appreciate.
sorry. I wish I had more control over the regulations.
Oh, but I just wanted to confirm it just to make sure the age qualification. Thank you.
Absolutely, sure thing.
Okay, there are a couple of, I know that one of these questions was covered in the program. How do you apply to the program? Do you want to refresh us on that?
How do you apply to the program? Yes. So the program, you need a support service provider to assist you in filling out the application. It's kind of an application to the program, but it's really a referral to the program, and that's why the referral agency, so someone like Life CIL can help with that. And there's just a form. It's 2 or 3 pages, I think, that they help you fill out and then send to the 811 program. So, and then I see the other question about home repairs. Or I guess I should ask Kanisha, did that answer your question sufficiently?
Yes, well, kind of. So I'm the primary caregiver of my boyfriend. He's a paraplegic. So we just want to know, like, how do we go about, like, I guess, getting on it? Like, I know you said like Life Helps or the organization. Do we like email you all or call, or is there like a form online that say, hey, we're interested? Or I know I'm very anal. I'm sorry. I just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing.
That is totally fine. These
Let me
programs are
help Kanisha.
complicated.
Yeah, let me help Kanisha with that. So what county are you in, Kanisha?
Well, he lives in Douglasville and I live in Morrow, Georgia. So he lives with his aunt, which she works all the time, but he just wants to, he got injured 12 years ago and he's been living in her basement for the last 12 years, but he wants, independence and things. And like, I looked up this program and I was like, Devin, you're disabled, you do work, but he does want to be more independent and live on his own and things like that. So I don't know if he wants to move south or if he wants to stay in Douglasville. We really haven't talked about it much, but we just saw this program and was like, he would be great for, getting his independence back.
Absolutely. And I do encourage you, even though you haven't decided yet, if you want to get started, where you are, if moving seems to kind of be an overwhelming concept, there's no reason why you can't contact your local center for independent living. And so basically all the centers there are areas of the state that aren't covered, unfortunately, by centers for independent living, but a good majority of it is. We ourselves at Life do cover, between our 2 offices, 20 service counties. So we can only provide services and assist those to apply if they are in those service counties. So what you'll want to do is track down, it's on the SILC, SILCGA website. It's a searchable link that you can use to find your Center for Independent Living and ask them if they participate in the program, if they can help you with the application process.
And what was that address again? I'm sorry.
Oh, I can put it in the chat for you.
Okay, that's
actually pull up the real link. And so what it is the Statewide Independent Living Council of Georgia. So that council covers the whole state, and they have a database of all the different centers for independent living on their website. So that's the website I'm actually going to be putting into the chat so people aren't confused by that.
Okay, and then I just contact them and help us with the 811 referral program? Is that what I asked?
So you would identify based on going to this website that I just dropped in the chat. Open that website and you would find your center for independent living based on your location. And then that's who you would want to talk to directly.
Okay.
And if you, just because we have stronger relationships with some organizations than others. Even though we can work with all, we do have like stronger relationships with some. So if you kind of go there and find the one for your area and you run into some barriers or it's not flowing well, email us at hud811@dca.ga.gov and just reach out to us and we might be able to help connect you or build that bridge with a referral agent.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
All right, and we have come to the end of the presentation. And I want to thank you all again. This has been very valuable information for ourselves and the community at large. I know I learned a few new things today. And of course, this isn't the end of the conversation. We want to make sure everyone stays connected and stays informed. So I will be posting this recording on both our YouTube page and our Facebook page. So hopefully you follow those. And the slides, once I receive them from Libby. Now keep in mind that programs do change from time to time. Guidelines change, rules change. So this information is, as of today, current and accurate and straight from the horse's mouth. So we want to make sure that people don't say 5 years from now, well, they said this in 2022. That might not be true in a few years. So keep in mind that the information as presented today is up to date and accurate as of today. If you've got questions for us at Life, I'm going to drop our phone number, which is 912-920-2414. And I want to thank you all for joining us today. I want to thank the team from DCA for joining us and being awesome and providing us with great information. Everybody go and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.